Hi, I'm Brother Bill. Welcome to this installment of The Essentials. Today brings us to the flood. We've already looked at what happened between Cain and Abel and the first murder. We've learned that sin is an inherited condition. And more to the point, if you read Genesis chapters 6 through 9, that's the story of the flood and what happened. And the reason that God decided to do this is because he said people were full of violence, sort of like today. There was a lot of sin and wickedness, and it was consuming us. And God actually reached a point where he said, I regret making man in the first place. And so God decided that judgment was in order. God is the creator, it's his creation, and God is holy and just, and most certainly will punish sin. But in all this it says that Noah found favor with God. And as such, God took an initiative with Noah based on faith. He warned Noah. Understand? God approached Noah, warning him of the coming flood, telling him to build an ark. God revealed the design of the ark. Noah didn't have to think of something. There was no such thing as rain. It said that before this, a mist came out of the ground, maybe something like geysers, but a mist came out of the ground, and that's how things got watered. And so God reveals to Noah this stuff called rain that's going to fall from the sky that you've never seen before. Trust me on this one. It's going to flood the world. And I'm going to end all flesh. But you build an ark. And the way that I tell you to, and we'll gather animals and get them on board so that you will survive. And it won't be the entire end of the world. Noah believed God. Noah built an ark, and understand, for a man in his time with no power tools, and he's going to build something that looks more like a city. It's huge. The ark and its dimensions were not too different from a modern day aircraft carrier or a modern day freighter. It was quite big, and because it had to hold a lot. So God does all of this. Noah follows God in faith, obeys God. And that means all he has for a work crew is his family. But he and his sons get out there. And that means they have to fell logs. It took a little while. And build the ark the way that the Lord told them to build it, to pitch it, to waterproof it. And in all of this, God is about to execute judgment, but he's still showing mercy. But he does send the flood. It says they entered the ark, the Lord shut them in, and then God sends the flood. And the flood is described as the fountains of the great deep. I assume the oceans, were opened as well as the heavens, and so water was coming from everywhere. But that's a lot of rain, and so everything that wasn't in the ark died. Now, that being the case, God brought this about in order to end most of mankind except for those he had mercy on. When we understand redemption, understand, God did not do something to people's heads and rewire our brains to make us like robots where we just wouldn't do certain things. He gave us our self. Even though corrupted by sin, we have free will, we choose, we make mistakes, when so we can have a relationship with him as well as with each other. And God hasn't altered that to alter our behavior. He hasn't made us less than what he created us to be. But that means we're responsible for ourselves in any way. Had to trust God. That's what faith is. And to build such a thing as the ark, which he did because he believed God. And so, by faith, Noah is saved because he follows God's directions. And when he gets off the ark, the first thing Noah does is gather stones and build an altar and offer sacrifice to God. Worship and thanksgiving. That's generally what a redeemed person's first responses are. And of course, God puts the rainbow in the sky and says that he will never flood the world again. And God also lifts the curse on the ground that he'd cursed for Adam's sake. He's lifted that curse. And so now the ground isn't cursed, and he promises not to smite every living thing. Now understand, when God does that, this is not an apology. It's not God's way of saying, I'm sorry, I promise I won't do that again. It's not that at all. God was just in the judgment that he passed on the rest of humanity. They had already rejected him, and they reaped the reward of their rejection. But God was saying, I won't do that again, because overall, God had already told Adam and Eve, about the seed of woman, who will bruise the serpent's head. So there's already long-term redemption is on the way. So he's not going to get rid of everyone, close as he came to it. And so he made a covenant likewise with Noah. Now it looks like everything's great. And after this, he says, now you can go out and fill the earth and subdue it again. And he also tells them in Genesis 9:3 that now you can eat the animals. Now, that might seem a little odd, but for whatever reason, God said, now you can eat the animals, which means when we see it later on in the Bible, they're not sinning. Not doing something terrible. It's not wrong or evil to be an omnivore. After all this, things are looking good. Noah goes out, plants a vineyard, makes some wine. Then he gets drunk, and he goes about naked in his tent, and you just think, oh. I remember sharing this story in the Middle East with a friend of mine. He said, what happened? I thought Noah was a holy man. No, Noah's not a holy man. Okay? He was a redeemed man. And he was a faithful man. But in the same way, you realize sin is still a problem. That's why he did this. His son Ham saw him, told his brothers about it, and realizing what he'd done, Noah, probably still in a drunken state, didn't curse Ham. He cursed Ham's son, Canaan. Now, in all of that, I've listened to people try to make this sound like it was just or that it was right. It was not. The point of this is to realize that sin is still a problem. When people think, well, God should punish the wicked people and spare the good people, he did that already. Where'd the other wicked people come from? Sin is still a problem. For all that God's done, sin is still a problem. He would have had to have destroyed Noah and his family to completely eradicate them. He may have had to destroy creation altogether. Don't know. But for all this, you realize in what he's done, sin is still the problem, which means when the Bible in the New Testament says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, that's true. Noah was the best God could find, but he was still a sinner. Even in our day, the violence still there. The problem's still there. And the problem is in all of us. It's because sin has broken our human nature. It corrupts us. It makes us unable to do much good. This is the condition that we live in. This, the good news is, this is what God wants to redeem us out of because he loves us. Thank you for watching.